You've been walking towards healing for a long time. Okay, let's you still have access to whatever you want on your phone. Let's take that off.
Thanks for joining us for another Techless Talk, where we explore how consumer technology shapes our relationships, health, and culture.
Hey everyone, today we are at the Sexual Integrity Leadership Summit and we're continuing our series on that thing, sex, pornography, masturbation, all those things that create those feelings of guilt. And just even saying those words, I don't know what that does for you, but me just saying them out loud sometimes gives feelings of shame or expectations. There's a lot of confusion there. We have some really special guests. They are from an organization called Proven Men. We've got Kale and Marshall with us today. First of all, thanks for being here. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, okay? I wanted you here for two reasons.
Yeah.
One is because what you guys do is awesome. And secondly, it's because your mustache. I'm kind of joking, kind of not, but
Listen, man, I do what I can.
It's bold. I mean, anyone who can rock that is
it's a platform in and of itself.
It's a man who doesn't care at all about anything.
Tell me what your day-to-day life looks like, because y'all have a very different life than many people. What does that look like?
Within Proven Men, we are the outreach team. So when guys reach out to us, they have two options. Either, hey, I need help and I want help, or hey, I want to lead in this area. And so for me, I get the leader side of things. So if guys who say, hey, I want to lead, I work with them and typically with churches to be able to help guys get the material out the door to be able to help the people that want it.
We still have people that reach out to us and say hey, I'm struggling, I need help, like what he was saying. And I will take those guys and I'll talk to them. I'll hear their stories and then try to point them forward.
I mean, what does that sound like or look like typically?
I mean, I'll try to find out where they're from, who they are, what they do, all that jazz. But then I'll ask them for their stories specifically regarding sexual integrity. Like, where did this start? How has it played out through the years? And then what led you to reach out and say, hey, I need help? And so you have the classic story of I encountered porn in a magazine when I was 8 years old, anywhere between 8 and 12. And then the internet came out and then this happened and now here I am. And sometimes it's a little bit more typical, but then you have other times where it's I've never told anybody this and you're the first person I've told, or I haven't told my wife about this and I don't know how to go home and have this conversation. It's oh man.
What's the number one thing that you've seen that, hey, this is something that if before someone calls you wish that they knew as far as to gauge their level of commitment to this?
So we have a lot of guys that will approach the issue as a sort of behavior issue or a focus or a virtue issue. We use the word virtue of I have to fix this in myself because I want to be somebody who has integrity. And that's really good. Behavior, having quote unquote good behavior is a good thing. We want to pursue virtue.
I do this thing and I want to stop doing this thing.
Yeah.
This is what I do.
Yeah, this thing is harming me. It's harming my relationships. It's making me a father that looks at stuff, but also have a 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
That stuff just gets muddy. And so these guys will say, okay, I need to pursue this holiness or this virtue at the expense of I'm actually pretty broken and there's a story inside of myself that needs healing. And so that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. And I've seen that in a lot of guys. Virtue at the expense of healing, or on the flip side of that. And that's typically a more conservative guy. And then a lot of times more left-leaning person, not even necessarily left-leaning politically, but just kind of a left-leaning approach. They're I want healing, hear my story, I'm gonna hear your story, and we're just gonna love each other and talk about it. And also super, super important, but at the expense of coming to pursue virtue. This is what it looks like to have integrity on a larger scale. And finding a middle ground between those two is so, so important. Because I think in truth, you can't actually have one without the other. You can't have healing and not have virtue, and you can't have virtue and not have healing. You've been walking towards healing for a long time. Okay, let's you still have access to whatever you want on your phone. Let's take that off. There's virtue here, that you have to start pursuing and taking actionable steps towards.
Man, okay, so help us understand this, because virtue, healing, these are kind of abstract. So very practically, okay, what does it look like if someone has strong virtue but doesn't care about the healing side, and paint the picture of the opposite just to help us understand clearly?
For me, contending with my emotions in the middle of doing what's right and wrong isn't really on the hierarchy of important. It's not even close to hierarchy of important. So I don't necessarily care how I feel in the middle of a run per se, right? Or in the middle of a discussion about something. I don't care how I feel in those moments. I don't even pay attention to how I feel in those moments. And so the suffering aspect of not doing what I want. So in this case, watching pornography, I don't care how I feel. You just don't watch pornography. And so
Suck it up, discipline, just do it.
get after it. Yeah. Suffer. Yeah. Nobody cares. Work harder type mentality.
Sound like a drill sergeant, a self-directed drill sergeant kind of.
Yeah, my dad was a Green Beret, so it's probably the internal voice is probably him. And I like that. I like people like that. I get along with people like that. That motivates me to get after it, and whatever it may be. And so that's my bent. That's where I've been towards. But what I've found is that your emotions are not primary, but they are the passenger seat in the car, a necessary passenger seat in the car. Similar to how your past can't be your windshield, but it has to be at least a rearview mirror, that balance has brought me more closer to the middle, I think, in the past year than I have otherwise been. So being able to have conversations about how I feel about something is a necessary part of it, because it enlightens the process even more so than just sucking it up. Now, there's times, I think, still where you just have to get over it and get after it. Emotions are built in, and ignoring them seems like a unwise thing to do the more I grow up.
Yeah, and I'm more on the other end of that spectrum.
Okay.
I am more the person who's like, we need healing. Absolutely. And I think with that, the downfall of that is like, oh, I feel angry. I feel really angry. Why do I feel this angry? And then I'll sit at my desk for hours of like journaling through past memories, journaling through what my dad did when I was
Drawing
8.
pictures.
Like for real. And then
He's got a figure paintings.
all the while, I'll like after hours of emotional processing, I'll be exhausted, and for a long time, it's like I was the person who had no filter on my phone. So of course, it's like I'm processing through these deep emotional things that are very, very important. But then I get to the end and I'm exhausted. Of course, I'm going to want to go look at porn. Because it's like that's going to fill whatever thing I just emptied myself of.
Yeah, you have no energy left to fight because you just process.
And so there really is a middle ground here of action, but also being still.
Man, this makes me feel like I just imagine it's like poetry and art meets drill sergeant and warrior. And it makes me think of David in the Bible who wrote songs at the same time, killed people. It's like it's sort of this dichotomy. I don't know.
There's a proverb that says, hold violence and peace, holding both and not letting go of one or the other. Right? The wise man holds on to both and doesn't let go of the other. And I think that's what we're talking about. I think there's a lot of dichotomies in this world, but within that, I think that's what's going on. It's like, you have to understand virtue. You have to hold on to it and not let go of it. And you have to hold on to what was the other phrase?
Healing emotions.
Healing, there we go. Healing emotions and not let go of them. You have to have them both. And trying, I think maturity is finding the balance in them. I think that's what it means to be mature. And for me, that means picking up one, in a lot of areas of my life. But I think finding the middle is a process of maturity in our lives. And so, everybody, it's weird because everybody's in a different spot on that spectrum. And you get to figure out where you're at.
The word shame just keeps coming to mind because I don't know if you see it as the greatest barrier to progress, but just the initial steps, the courage, whatever, like that's just a huge word. So how would you speak to somebody with the word shame being one of the biggest barriers for them taking this courageous journey to fighting pornography addiction?
An illustration that comes to my mind, one, like your shame is real. so real. It is. Porn is a scary word sometimes. Like, hey.
That's why I try to say it out loud. It's just to destigmatize it. And I try to make things less shameful by talking about them.
For sure. Like nobody wants to walk up to a friend and say, hey dude, I looked at porn. Like it's like porn. It's like it echoes through the room sometimes. And that is the shame. That is the shame of it. And an illustration that I found helpful, it's one that I found in my own life, and I've given this to a lot of men, is oftentimes we're sitting in a room and there's a threshold, and then there's another room on the other side of that threshold, doorway, whatever you want to call it. And the threshold often is shame, embarrassment, humiliation. It is the, hey, I looked at porn and I need help. Those two phrases. And if you know anything about thresholds, it takes less than a second to get through them. But once you're through it, I actually think the next room is much more beautiful. There's a nice warm fireplace. There's a beautiful view of the mountains. And maybe there are more rooms to go to after that. But it really is a threshold of saying, I need help. I'm weak. I need help. And there's a humility there that I think combats the shame. And it's easy to say that on a podcast and much harder to do. I want to come back to that. Like it is such a scary thing, especially if you've been holding on to it for years and years and years and years and you want to take it to your grave. Like, it's heavy. It's a heavy burden to carry, but walk through the threshold.
And grasp the vision of the other side and recognize this is just a moment. It's a moment. And see that beyond that moment, there's so much more. Right. And there will be further moments. Like you said, there's other moments, but it's for sure. The first one's the hardest oftentimes.
What's interesting about shame is it tells you something true about yourself that you don't want to face. I think all of us think that we're awesome. We're not all awesome. So shame has this really interesting, though dangerous, mind you, reality to tell you something true. Maybe not all the way true, but something at least true about who you are. Are you the type of guy that's going to hide in a bathroom and masturbate while your wife who wants sex is waiting in the other room? Are you the type of guy who is going to go look for a different relationship in a coffee shop outside of your relationship with your wife? Are you the type of guy who's going to get on an app and just scroll through women as if they're just meat bags for your pleasure? You ask that question and everybody's saying no, but we know that's not necessarily the case. And so shame has a really, I think, important role in the life of a human being to point out what's at least something that's wrong, right? I don't think it's fully true because I think lies, you're not only that. I don't think humans are only that, but it does illuminate what you need to change. Walking through the threshold isn't ignoring the shame and ignoring the evil that you've done. It's facing that. It's reckoning with that reality. And until you do, you'll just go deeper and deeper in hiding, I think.
Tell us a little bit about how to reach you guys and get plugged into what you're doing here.
We have a website called provenmen.org. And if you go to that website, at the very top, you'll see a little sign up. And you just put your first name, last name, and your email in there. And then you can click a button that says, I'm struggling, or you can click a button that says, I want to lead, which is what Marshall was saying at the very beginning of our talk. Depending on where you are on that spectrum, we do approach this from a Christian perspective. And so if that resonates with you in that way and you want to walk towards that, whether you're struggling or if it's something that you want to stand up for in a leadership capacity, then go to provenmen.org, look at that sign up sheet and sign up, and then click whichever button more fits.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Glad to have you. Thanks for what you're doing in the world.
Yeah, man, for sure. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.